That is a Union General saber, and which is an odd thing to be in a southern state.
Rick Perry, eagerly giving a history lesson of the Texas governor's mansion, like what Sam Houston did in this very room with a telegram from Abraham Lincoln.
And he wadded it up, and he stepped over and threw it in that fireplace.
This is not the Rick Perry the country saw during his ill-fated, at times embarrassing, 2012 presidential campaign.
The education, commerce, and let's see, I can't. The third one I can't, sorry. Oops.
He is about to step down as Texas governor after 14 years, the longest serving in Lone Star State history. And he's trying to reintroduce himself as competent and charismatic as he test drives his message for a probable second White House run.
Americans are begging for a positive view of the future, for an individual who's got a record of being able to make the future better for their families. And that's exactly what we've done in Texas over the last 14 years. More jobs created than any other state. A third of all the jobs created in America since I've been governor were created in Texas.
He will carry some baggage, like an indictment for abuse of power his advisors call politically motivated. Still, Perry spent most of December hosting potential 2016 donors and supporters in a series of lunches and dinners here at the governor's mansion, prepping his pitch.
Americans are looking for competent leadership, and sometimes it shows itself in ways that you could never have dreamed of. The disease of Ebola coming on to our shores, and the first city, and they saw how we dealt with that.
He blames his poor performance in 2012 on pain and medication from back surgery. And he admits he was just plain not prepared. So he spent the last 2 years doing his homework.
You have been spending a lot of time boning up on foreign policy, on economic policy, on every kind of policy that you would imagine. Tell me about that process.
Well, running for the presidency of the United States requires an inordinate amount of preparation. Sitting at the feet of Henry Kissinger and George Shultz, picking their brains about what's going on in the world, that has paid great dividends. If I make the decision to run for the presidency, I will be prepared.
But this is the second largest state in the Union, and you have talked about the great strides that you've made with this state. So why isn't that enough experience?
Well, there's a great deal of difference between putting economic policies into a state and being very cognitive and versed in foreign policy, in monetary policy, or domestic policy for that matter.
Last week, Jeb Bush became the first Republican to make official moves towards a 2016 run.
Jeb's a good man. He's a good friend. Great family, good governor of Florida. As a matter of fact, I think Jeb getting into the race will help the field.
How so?
Well, he's been a successful governor, and again, having a person of his background in the race makes a lot of sense. But it won't make a difference about whether I get in or not.
In Texas are a lot of donors that Jeb Bush might well be dipping into that you might need to fund a Perry presidential race. So doesn't that concern you?
Well, if I decide to make the race, this will be about our vision. This will be about talking about the future of this country.
Perry was lieutenant governor of Texas when Jeb's brother, George W. Bush, was governor, and they didn't always get along.
It is an open secret that Rick Perry and the Bush family have had some tension with George W. Bush, more obviously than his brother. Is that going to play into any potential competition going forward?
This is a great family. You look back at George H.W. Bush, who chose Texas A&M as his site of his library and comes to practically every Aggie football game, and to George living in this state. And they're a great family, and I respect them greatly, always have and always will.
Perry is taking 2016 prep beyond policy to performance, working with a company called Podium Masters, run by a former head of the Royal Shakespeare Company.
Why did you choose that?
I guess so my Hamlet would come out right when I decide to quote Hamlet on the stage. We use a lot of different people, Dan. I mean, and I think that's an appropriate thing to be engaged with folks to help in all aspects of your public speaking. I think if you, I desire to be better at what I do, and I think that's a very important part of it.
And I'm guessing also to avoid an oops moment if you run in 2016.
That would be preferable.